Hello everyone and welcome to Travel Camp Explore. Today we are going to talk about the first part of our recent cruise on celebrity cruises. This will be a little bit different to our recent reviews. We are going to try to show you more of what we got up to on the cruise versus a detailed review. However, we will also touch on some of our usual topics as we go through this series of videos. The cruise actually departed from the Cape Liberty Cruise Terminal in New Jersey, so we flew up from Florida the morning of the cruise. This is a little bit risky, I know, and we did have about an hour's delay with the flight, but the flights were booked through Celebrity, so we figured the worst case scenario was they got us to our first port of call. However, it never looked like we would miss the cruise. We arrived in Newark Airport about 30 minutes later than originally scheduled, and we were actually able to get an earlier shuttle to the cruise port. Cape Liberty Cruise Port is definitely an older port and not very attractive, but functional, and the boarding process, while not as quick as some we've experienced, it only took about 40 minutes to get on board the Celebrity Summit. We had never left from Cape Liberty before, so we were excited to experience this as we knew we were right across from a New York City skyline and the Statue of Liberty. Whilst we had previously been on a boat trip from New York City to the statue, it was still exciting to be sailing close to the statue again. Captain did a great job getting pretty close to the statue and spent a little bit of time there to allow people time to get a good view and take photos. This was a very cool experience and I would highly recommend going on a cruise out of this port just for that benefit. So our first day on board was a sea day, and then we arrived in Halifax, Nova Scotia. We had an excursion booked with Celebrity to go and see Peggys Cove. The weather was overcast but not raining, so it was okay. The port of Halifax is very small. You come directly off the ship through a small building with some souvenir stalls inside and out to the other side to where the buses were waiting. The tour started with a quick trip through downtown and up to the fort to look over Halifax. After a 5-minute stop there, we headed out of town towards Peggys Cove. The tour guide was very informative and informed us that this would take a little bit longer than usual. They had recently had some bad flooding that had washed some of the roads out, so they were having to take a longer route to get to Peggys Cove. She told us some cool stories about the history of the cove on the way out there, and the 45-minute trip passed pretty quickly. Now, for anybody wondering which tour to take, the lighthouse and fishing village are right next to each other and the buses all stop at the same spot. I know when we were looking at the excursions it wasn't totally clear and we were having a little bit of trouble deciding which one we wanted to book. Upon arriving at the cove, the bus pulled into a fairly small area by the gift shop. This is at the top of the hill, closer to the lighthouse, so most people headed towards the lighthouse first. I will say your time here is pretty limited, but that's because there is not a lot of parking, so the buses have to limit their time to allow enough space for additional buses to park. We were actually the only ship in town that day. I cannot imagine how much busier it would be on days when there are 3 ships in port at once. As you can see from the photos and videos, the area is very picturesque. It is probably about a 5-minute walk from the lighthouse area down the hill to the area where the boats are docked. It's only a short distance, but it is quite steep on the way back up to the parking area, so bear that in mind. This is our first stop in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and here we are at the famous Peggys Cove lighthouse.
Well, Nova Scotia is Latin for
We took a cruise excursion here. It's about a 3.5 hour excursion. Took about an hour to get here with a little bit of a trip through downtown Halifax. Then probably about a 45-minute drive out here. It takes a little bit longer than it used to do right now because of the recent flooding and the damage resulting from that. I would say that the tour guide was very knowledgeable on the bus up here. Told us a lot of interesting backstories to some of the people that live here, some of the houses were built here. Today we are the only ship in town and the area is pretty busy. The guide was saying that in a few weeks' time there'll be 5 ships in town all at the same time. I can't imagine how busy this area will be then. I can't imagine where they will park all the buses, to be honest. But yeah, this is Peggys Cove. Very beautiful location. With all the granite rock. And around the corner we're going to go and walk down into the village shortly just to take a look down there.
Okay, ready? Come here. Take it. I can't tell if it took it. What are you doing?
There's one of the fishing boats going out to the ocean. We are going to walk down into the little fishing village shortly. This is mainly a fishing community. I think the guide said there's only about 20 something families own property here. And here's a little fishing harbour. So as you can see, it's not really a long walk down to this village area, but it is a steep hill. A little gift shop and a tour to see puffins. Here's a boat that looks like it's seen better days. And this is the art gallery of the local artist that the tour guide was telling us about on the bus. very long but steep. The big grey building at the front is a big gift shop. So here we are back at the buses. And that ends our time in Peggys Cove. So we just got back to the tour to Peggys Cove. And now we're walking through the terminal building. So back in Halifax now, we're walking down towards what they call a boardwalk to see if we can find somewhere to eat. The building to the left used to be the old immigration processing facility. Definitely learned some interesting things about Halifax I didn't know. I had heard it was tied to the Titanic and that some of the people were buried here. I did not know that there was a massive explosion. Okay, so we found a potential eatery, the Halifax Pier Pub. So that brought us to the end of our day in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I enjoyed our visit there. I enjoyed the visit to Peggys Cove. The next day was a sea day, and we'll pick this up in our next video where we visit St. John's, Newfoundland, and then on to Greenland.